I did not like Fate Zero. Let me explain you why. This past week I've been watching the anime Fate Zero, and I ended up not being the biggest fan of it. In this video I'll explain all the reasons as to why, plus some points I did end up enjoying. Let's start with the beginning. Why did I decide to watch it? Well, the answer is simple. It was a recommendation by a YouTuber which I enjoy watching and share similar opinions with, Mola. This Spanish YouTuber says this anime is one of the best he's ever watched. So, trusting his taste, I decided to give it a go. Needless to say, this made me have high expectations for it as I go into it, since apparently one of the major selling points was the plot and character writing, two things I'm very interested in. But when I hopped in, I was greeted with one of the first problems you may encounter. The first chapters are full of exposition, explaining to you how the Holy Grail War works, which is just a whole hassle. And in order for you, dear viewer, to understand some of the later points I will be making, I'll briefly explain. Sorry if I'm not 100% accurate, as this is my first time watching anything Fate related, and I may not get everything right. So, the Holy Grail War is a battle between mage families and other random mages that a Grail selects to get control over the Holy Grail, which holds the absolute truth, and also grants wishes. In order for the mages to fight, they summon servants, which are historical figures brought to existence by the mana of their masters, the mages mentioned before. These mages have 3 command spells which can give orders to the servants that they have to 100% listen to, in order to have control over them. Otherwise, the servants can't have free will. If you really want to learn more about this, you can dig into this whole thing yourself. But if you're expecting me to recommend it to you, I got bad news, because I don't expect I'll be liking this franchise a whole lot after this. Anyways, getting back on track, I thankfully wasn't too confused by the rules thanks to watching the first few episodes on Darkray's stream, in which he explained everything on further detail. So this point gets no complaints from me, or at least it didn't affect my watching, although it will be a bother to people trying to watch it for the first time, since this being a prequel, you apparently are expected to go and endure all of Stay Night first, which from what I've heard has a lot worse writing. And if it gets worse than this, I'm not expecting it's gonna be it's gonna be good. Another thing that bothered me. The first season lacks a lot of progression, since they're mainly just there to introduce the characters and there's not much else going on. But I was willing to look past how boring it was, expecting for there to be good stuff on the second season. First season, there's mainly just eye candy in the form of cool animations, but not much else. People hype up the scene of the Banquet of Kings, but on my eyes there wasn't anything interesting being explored, and even if there was, it's not expanded upon at all for the rest of the show. Again, maybe they expanded on Stay Night, but that makes Fate Zero as a standalone work fall on mediocre at best. Things start to get good around season 2. At long last, the interesting plot I was promised arrives, in the form of my Saber, Kiritsugu. By far, the most interesting thing this show has going for it is Kiritsugu's ideals, and how they clash with the ones of his servant, Saber, a noble knight who believes in duel and honor, compared to Kiritsugu, who is a trained assassin and believes killing is wrong no matter how you try to paint it. Lancer's death scene, along with Kiritsugu's past, are the best thing to come out of this anime by far, making for an interesting discussion on how many people would be willing to sacrifice to save the world. It's also pretty rare to see the type of character that is willing to sacrifice the people he loves for the greater good as a hero, since this trope usually is assigned to the villain role. I wish this show just centered more about exploring Kiritsugu as a character, rather than having like a whole episode wasted on Rin Tosaka just because she's a major Stay Night character, or having to see Ryunosuke and Caster kill kids for the 10th time. We get it, they're evil, and your show is very mature for having kids die. Another splendid thing this show does, and Fate in general to be honest, is the character design. Seeing historical figures reimagined as anime characters has always been a fun thing to me, and they don't disappoint in this aspect. This is the reason as to why, despite hating Fate Zero and not looking forward to the rest of Fate, I have a cute little Saber on my banner. She's just adorable. For history buffs, this may not be a good point, because they're not very accurate to how they looked in real life, but to the rest of us, who are not nerds, they're cool. I also really like how they implement things about the real history of the servants into the novel phantasm, which is basically like their old. Looking into historical figures wiki and understanding why they made it that way is one of the few fun parts about Fate's franchise as a whole. This show's biggest problem, and what holds Kiritsugu back. I feel like the biggest problem this show has is the ending. And everything bad about the ending can be explained by them having to make it that way because this is part of a bigger franchise. This is a prequel to Fate Stay Night, and tied into the whole franchise of Fate. This makes them unable to finish the show their own way, being forced to do ridiculous things like, spoiler alert, reviving Kirei. Like, what the fuck is up with that? Why even kill him in the first place? Another thing is the whole fact about the Grail making it rain lava over the city, killing thousands of people despite Kiritsugu's sacrifice to keep up on his wish, making it all seem worthless to him. It gives us the scene of him saving Shiro, which is Stay Night's protagonist, which is cute, but ultimately doesn't make it any more worth it. You could have had him save his life in any other settings besides this. I don't mind Saber's story being unended and having to hop on the Stay Night to find out about the rest, but I would have loved for Kiritsugu, which is our protagonist, to get a more satisfying and closing ending. Kotomine Kirei. Oh boy! This character ties into another problem I have with Fate that will be the next one I'll visit, so I want to be brief with him, since all of his main problems are tied into the next one. I expected Kirei to be so much more than he ended up being. Kirei was Kiritsugu's antagonist, which had a really interesting dynamic, having Kiritsugu be the one with an ideal set in stone, and Kirei having no idea what he wants to do in life, having no motivation. Eventually, this climaxes on Kirei realizing that what he enjoys is suffering. I was told that this was expanded on in Stay Night, which to me is a poor decision, and would have been better to have at least some kind of flashback or explanation as to why he is the way he is. Because by just watching Zero, your takeaway is that he was a repressed 30-something-year-old edgelord, and I think that's a very boring and one-dimensional character compared to what we had before. The edginess. Holy shit, this is one of my biggest problems here. This show just constantly tries to show us how mature it is by having people and especially kids die constantly, and tragedy is happening all around non-stop. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind people dying in my cartoons or tragic endings. Like, for God's sake, one of my favorite scenes is Lancer's death. But I enjoy them when they have a purpose rather than just be cool. A lot of the gruesome scenes in Zero are completely unnecessary and just there to please an audience that loves to see guts on screen. I believe in stuff like this being used to convey a message, like how you have animals die in JoJo's to show how evil the villain is. However, in Fate, this is overdone to a degree where it makes you believe the whole show was written by a 14-year-old kid who just found out about Wattpad and is mad about their parents taking their Xbox at night. And then Caster just killed a kid, and then there were kids dying, and then Ryunosuke just kills like a bunch of kids. You got the message clear with the first scene. This just keeps happening on and on with Sakura's torture and the uncle dying, and Sakura being like, oh yeah, you've never cared about you even. And the lava rain ending, like why is lava raining down from the sky? I also don't mind tragic endings, but the one in Fate seems absolutely stupid to me, since it wasn't used to transmit any message, or at least not one that I noticed. Tragic endings in movies like Dead Poets Society are amazing because they give us a major takeaway. Accept your kids for who they are. Believe in their dreams, be supportive of them. However, the one in Zero felt was just there to set up for Stay Night, like that just happened in order for us to have Stay Night with Kirei and Shiro there, like, come on. Why do people like the show? I made this question on Twitter because I was curious, and one of the main answers was the animation was cool. Which, in my opinion, if I wanted to go and watch cool animation, I'd rather go watch Demon Slayer, which isn't a show pretending to be anything deeper than it is. It's just a shonen with a basic plot, very basic characters, entirely made to be eye candy. Another one was Kiritsugu, which was a point I mostly agree with, if he wasn't done so wrong in that ending. I mean, for God's sake, like, I'm almost able to recommend the show entirely because of Kiritsugu, but you make me not be able to do that. Like, come on, I want to help you here. Weber and Iskandar are also a duo that people like, but since they weren't the main protagonists, they didn't get to develop as much as Kiritsugu, even if they had like a shit ton of screen time, and therefore I didn't really get attached to them. It does serve this purpose of giving you another duo to root for besides Kiritsugu and Saber, but Kiritsugu's wish is so novel, I see no reason as to why you root for anyone else. I understand how they're fan favorites, because there's the most shonen archetype of the bunch, like, Weber is like, oh no, I'm so weak and I have to prove myself, and then Iskandar is like, no, you are strong heart, and you must believe in yourself, cause I love conquering and I'm a king. And, you know, honestly, it is much preferable to have these two on screen rather than fucking Caster and Ryunosuke. Jesus Christ, I fucking hate those two. Ending. Anyways, these are my fresh thoughts after just finishing Zero. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? I'm just happy I don't have to watch Fate again. Who's calling right now? Yeah?
Wanna watch Space the night together?
Yeah. The kid one time.